Good morning, everyone. While I wait for some of our members to join us, I will be going to get my coffee. Good morning. Who do we have with us? If you could, just drop a comment in the chat. Get all this mess out of the way. Good morning. While we wait for some people to join, I'm going to be looking at some of our watch list stocks that we captured yesterday going into yesterday's close. But if you have any stocks you want to look at, feel free to put them in the chat below. We can get straight to them. CBLL. Was it BLL or Ball Corp? Good morning. Have somebody else in here with us. If you want to review a stock, feel free to drop it in the chat and we can get started. Having my second cup of coffee for the day. Looks like a nice option play here. Let's see. Let's see if I can do this too. My trade grid detached. Of course. Good morning, everyone. Just going over some results from our scanner, wrapping up yesterday's trading session and after hours. If you want to review some of your own trades or potential positions you would like to make, feel free to drop it in the chat as we get started. Let's see, pull this here. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. Slide that over right here. Oh, we got it twice. We don't need it twice. You want to get an update on SNDL? Sure. Let's look at it. It actually broke out yesterday to the 170. Coming off those 130 lows. I know that much. I have some option calls on it going into March and then January of 2022 myself. So looking for some short-term play on it. Let me pull some of these indicators out. Thank you for being here. Glad to see you again, Julian. We have some people responding to us. Great. Wonderful. I've been recently talking to other communities and trying to get them to come join us. So looking at SNDL. Like I said, it broke out to the 170. They just released some news on a warrant. I can pull that news up for us. Let's see if I can detach that in any kind of way. Let's see. I don't even know if it lets me pull a... Might be wrong here. Yeah, detach gadget. To go over SNDL, I want to first focus on the news that was announced for the stock, which was just gonna pull it up for us. Yeah. Okay. They're raising an additional $89 million as holders exercise their warrants to buy common shares. Now, you may or may not know, but SNDL recently conducted... Good morning, Justin. Glad you're here, too. You have a 230 price average. We're actually looking at SNDL to hit 312 minimum. So I think you're fine. A lot of people are concerned, but what you need to take into account with the company is this is a good growth stock for the simple fact that the company actually went debt-free back in December. So... And then they just recently conducted an announcement in a $22 million investment in Divya, which is another, what do you call it, edible company, basically. And then on top of that, they announced a $1 billion shelf offering, basically saying that they have $1 billion sitting to the side that they can tap into, allowing them to basically access liquidity on the go. So not only are they debt free now, but they now have a new investment in an additional service line, expanding their services, and then they have this $1 billion that they can tap into, while also raising that $89 million in exercising warrants to buy these common shares. That would be the explanation for the price action that you have recently seen being pushed down on the stock. I believe they released that news around this week, about the $1 billion shelf offering. And anytime you see any type of offering, you're going to see price action to the low end, due to the fact that they're either offering more shares in order to access that, or and that of course is going to bring the price down, but that also allows more investors to come into the stock. I think we're pretty safe here moving forward, as long as we're not back at the 52-cent levels that we saw back in December. And one key level that we need to stay above is the 136, and I've been saying that it's a key level we need to stay above moving forward. And as you can see, we actually dropped below it there, going into a pre-market of Friday session, but it quickly rebounded, and that's when we saw that 171 breakout, which is also another key level. As you can see right here, I'm going to remove this 152 for right now, go a little bit closer into the trade and see how we're trading between those levels. 171 being a key level because we found strong support there before, and now it's playing as resistance, and we needed to stay above 152 going into the after hour session. As far as fundamentals on the company, they're doing very well. So as far as a longer term hold, great. I think that what I'm expecting to see is, once the stock does break above these levels and continue moving back to the $2 price ranges, you'll start to see that influx from investors pumping the trade even higher, because I think a lot of people are on edge waiting for this to actually perform. Good morning. Thank you for being here, Shad. Waiting for this to actually perform, and with it being a low stock price compared to your TLRA or even ACB, there's more buying power into the stock. Sorry, I'm just getting started for the day, but you can buy more into it and profit more into it as well. Fundamentally, this company is actually doing better than TLRY, and if you don't understand why the price is a larger value for TLRY, I'll call it Tilray, it's because they don't have the same amount of shares available to the market as SNDL does. And we could actually go into the fundamentals on that and see the difference between, one, the market cap, and then the shares available. Outstanding shares is what it's called. And compare those two. So I'll pull up the fundamentals as well. I really want to go a little bit more in depth with you all moving forward, instead of just looking at stock charts and things of that nature. Actually breaking down the business and understanding why the stock is where it's at. As you can see, quarter over quarter, the company's doing very well. We're up 2.6% on earnings per share. We're down a little bit on net profit margins. But like I said, the company is set to go positive moving forward into Q4 earnings. I expect that. But down here is what I want you to pay attention to. They have a $2.38 billion market cap, and they have 1.5 billion shares on the market. Now, if we were to look at TLRA, well, let's take a second to look at annually. Yes, we're seeing currently that we're seeing a negative 67% EPS growth. Hold on to that number here in a second, and you'll see why. I think TLRA is actually seeing a little bit worse than that. What happened? There we go. They're seeing a negative 74% growth in EPS, and they're down negative 18% net profit margins. As you can see, they do have 4.6 billion in market cap, but they only have 158 million shares available. So you can see the difference between the shares being available and why the price is where it's at. So that'll explain to anyone that doesn't understand why TLRA costs more as a stock than SNDL. It's because of your outstanding shares in comparison to the market cap. TLRA does have more market cap in it now due to the influx in the stock price from the last few weeks. So yes, they have more money on hand now, but they didn't before all that. And that's just like saying GameStop went to, a 23 billion, or what was it, $23 billion market cap when all that happened with the short squeeze and stuff like that. The company was only worth $2 billion before it started. Of course, I don't know if they took advantage of the fact that they now had 23 or 21 billion more to, access moving forward. I would have did stock offerings left and right as much as possibly allowed by the SEC to tap into that liquidity and actually put it back into the company. I'm not sure if they did that or not, but they should have. I think AMC was actually wise enough to do that, and potentially that short squeeze was able to bring them back in good standing as a business moving forward. Although I don't know the last time I've seen somebody go to the movies. But as I was saying before, we're actually looking to retest these 304 to 314 levels. So even being at a 230, you're still looking at, 70 cents on the trade. I have my calculator already pulled up for us so we can do quick analysis. So if we hit the 304, let's say we just go there and you're at 230 right now. That's somewhere near 74 cents on the trade. And that could potentially provide you with about, is that right? 32%? I feel like it should be more than that. That might be right. Yeah, that's right. You'll still gain 32% on the trade. I'm not sure how many positions what your position in the trade is, and if you were price averaging down on the trade or not, Julian. But I think you're going to be okay. I think once it does break above these 304s, we are going back to retest those 482s. But long term, I think the stock is going to do much better than we all expect moving forward. And as you can see, those 396 levels have been key levels we've needed to break above and haven't. So these are things that we just need to look for and identify. The fact that we shouldn't break below 136. If we do, then the trade's dying, in my opinion. And I will like to add that, you need to take into account what's causing the price action to go down too. So if they do another offering and it pushes it below 136, that's not necessarily a bad thing. That's an opportunity to actually pick up more of a position in the trade. Keep that in mind too. But if it's terrible news that brings the stock down, then we could actually die and go back to the 52 cent levels. I mean, this stock back in October 20 was near 29 cents a share. But this is a fairly new company. It's only been on the market less than a year and a half almost. I'm not saying we're necessarily going to go back to the $7 to $9 price ranges, but it's not impossible. Of course, what you'll see after an IPO is the stock will start doing these offerings to tap into the liquidity going into the stock. That people are investing in the stock in order to, of course, maximize their business operations and expand and continue to grow. That's why companies go public to begin with. So that's why you see it IPO'd right here. It actually IPO'd at this 1320 level and bounced down and bounced right back up. So, and then this sharp sell-off was basically from people taking the profits off the IPO. It kind of consolidated here. They probably did a stock offering in this area here shortly after their IPO. And it's just been kind of going down since. I would like to look into my research a little bit more and determine why it even made it to 25 cents to begin with. But I would most likely base it off of the fact that they have so many outstanding shares now available. I got into SNDL, but it was a bit high on the high side. Is it better to just stay in it and ride it out, or sell it and get back in at a better? All right, so one thing that I want you to keep in mind about investments, all right, there's two ways that I would look at it. Is you only lose it when you sell it. So if you're taking a loss on a trade, and it depends on why you got into it too. There's a lot of factors to take into account, but you only lose it if you sell it. So if you're down right now, you were to sell it, you're losing that buying power, versus holding and letting it play out and do what it needs to do. Then you're able to hold your current position, not lose any of your buying power, allow the stock to do what it needs to do, and recapture those profits that you're aiming for. But it all depends on why you got into the stock. Did you actually do DD on the company before you got into it, or were you just following the wave of mass retail investors that were just pumping money into these stocks, all because of one group of people said, this is what we're focusing on, and this is what we're hitting this week? I got into the stock because of the fundamentals, the business operations, and the steps that it's taken as a company. That is ultimately stronger than any pump that can be done by any group of people. Because as you can see, you can pump a stock up $3-4. That's a few cents or $1, but it's not going to hold because that's not the true evaluation of the company, and it's going to come back to where it should be regardless. Now, it is a new market that we're all having to adapt to, and as you can see from this, you just jumped into it. A lot of people did, and as I've said in our last live trading sessions, and I'll continue to say, like, we don't follow social movement hype because of that simple fact. And as what you're looking at right here is that social movement pump and dump is what they call it, and you need to stray away from those. Typically, you want to be in a stock before somebody starts pumping it, if you're going to do, utilize anything from a pump and dump. But nothing great ever comes from that. A lot of people buy in at these high price points. I know some people are holding at 290. I know some people holding at 240, 230. We all thought it was going to bounce back on this day right here. As you can see, we were rejected, and at the same time, that's when they release the shelf offering. So you got to be careful with that too. Like, the company can just come out any day and say, hey, we're accessing more of this liquidity, we're dropping this shelf offering. You're going to see it consolidate because more shares are coming out into the market in order to access that. You got to think about all the tools that a company has available. DNN. Okay. All right, we can look at that next. But you got to look at all the tools that a company has available being public on the market. And once you start to understand that concept, then you can kind of be aware of the risks of a company utilizing those tools, although it's not a bad thing that they are, because it's helping them grow as a business in the long term. So you might see some short-term volatility, but if you're looking for a long-term hold, you can't let short-term volatility, disencourage you, or, lose your confidence in the trade just because you're seeing short-term volatility, especially with things like pump and dumps. And that's the issue with pump and dumps, is that we see this very short-term volatility, and people create this craze about, oh my gosh, it's going to the moon, and then people get caught holding bags. Another thing to keep in mind is most of those people talking about something's going to the moon is only pumping it so that you can put more money in it, and they're already holding it at a higher price level, and they're trying to keep it going higher. That's the whole scheme behind a pump and dump. It's a scheme. The people pushing those types of movements are probably already out before you even get in, or trying to get out, and as soon as they're probably selling you their shares that they're trying to get out from under them. But looking for SNDL to actually remake it, retest those 304s. 388 is the key level we will have to break above long term. So that's our key levels. Yeah, self-growth equals patience. Somebody told me on our Discord channel, his name's Norrock, he said, what you're doing today should contribute to yourself 10 years. So you're basically doing a favor for yourself 10 years from now. Look at it from 10 years from now. What could you do today that could make it better for you 10 years from now, even 5 years from now, if you want to really get into detail on that. And that made sense to me. Like the moves I'm making today, I want to be profiting from 10 years from now in some form or fashion. So, but that's my outlook on it. We definitely have to get above that 388. And if we do, I believe it's going to be a growth stock and get back to where it potentially IPO'd at, to the $8-10 levels. I think this company's better than ACB. The only reason ACB is higher in stock price is because they did a stock split. What was it? Stock split to stay listed on the what are they, on the NASDAQ or they're on the New York Stock Exchange, but they're a poorly managed company. And if you look at the fundamentals on it, to justify that, let me see where my fundamentals are. What did I do with them? I'm sorry, guys. Let me get to it. Fundamentals. If you look at the fundamentals on ACB, I think it's far less impressive than SNDL. I don't know. It's not even loading. Anyways, they're a poorly managed company. That's what brought their stock price down to, I think, almost like 90 cents a share. I think people just think of it as a get rich fast. Yeah, and that's exactly what we saw occur from the COVID pandemic. The main thing in the markets was, for one, this time last year we were only seeing 7 billion trades a day. We're averaging 2 times that amount. There are, I can't remember the number of retail investors that have flooded the market. Nothing wrong with that. I'm not against that. Everybody should have the access to the market and be able to capitalize off of it, but they should do it intelligently. And I even learned that myself through the process. But we saw an influx of people thinking that, oh my gosh, the market's crashing. We have great buying opportunities in some of these stocks, and that's true. But some of them only recovered like 40-50%, which, I mean, is still green is green unless it's red. But people were just shooting at things without having any background knowledge, any DD as they call it, or fundamental analysis done on any of these companies. But anyways, I'm going to go ahead and move forward to DNN. I'm going to go down the list. So we'll do AMC next. If y'all have any other stocks that you want to look into going into next week, we can review together and get an idea of our key levels and stuff like that. And that's mainly what I'm going to be doing here. I'm not telling you when to buy, when to sell. I'll give you how I would play the trade, but it's solely up to you. I want you to keep that in mind. I'm here to help you look at the fundamentals, help you look at the current trend, and make better decisions based off of the information we discussed together. Okay. Honestly, I didn't think much of this until the GME hype, and I was like, oh, I should look into this. So yeah, true. I mean, that was a perfect example of what happened. And a lot of people that got into that stock were holding it at $325, and yet it was sitting at $160 a share. Now it's at like, what, $40, $50 a share, which is where it deserves to be. It's not a bad company fundamentally either. It's very well managed. So there is value in it. DFV was right. There's value in the company, but not to that extent. That's just extreme. And it was a war on Wall Street, and I'm not opposed to that. I feel like the big man has always been getting over on the little man. And to see people rebel in that form or fashion was kind of crazy to watch. I was glad to see that people were actually coming together to fight for the people. So I'm not opposed to what happened. It's just how it happened and how extreme people became on it. I actually looked at DNN the other day, I believe. I recall. I'm not sure what session we did this in. And we already identified the levels for you. So that's kind of getting, straight to the trade. I'm going to get rid of this watch list so we can have the full screen to look at. I think I had to pull back. Yeah. So key levels on DNN were finding support above the 163. I can blow that up a little bit, only because it played key levels of resistance before, and the stock, as you can see, has had trouble staying above that. I'm not saying it's not going to find the momentum to move to the upside and find that support up there. As you can see, we're actually finding support on this recent level of resistance it had issues with before it broke out here, but it actually retraced below that. These are things. This is why I do horizontal trades, or trend lines, because they help you identify, okay, this stock was sitting here at first. Yeah, it broke up above it, but did it stay above it? And this was in a pre-market session, so it gapped up, but then it sold out market open and it started trading below it. Finally found the momentum to break above it, and that's when we started seeing it trade, 40 to 50% higher. But then we ran into those 163 levels. I'm gonna get rid of this 126. But once again, broke out above it in after hours, gapped down heavy in pre-market, and then this is the trend here. So this is why I identify my horizontal price ranges, and then you can go in and do your diagonals to see what the current trend or trajectory on the stock is. So, and based off that, if you want to look at it from that, would be something to this degree. So you can possibly expect this to round up in a V shape right here to retest those 163s again. And if we do, I'm not sure what your price average is either. If you would let me know that. Who put that on there? Leon, if you would let us know what your price average is when you ask to review a stock, I want to basically look at the trade from that position. I can sit here and do trend analysis with you all day, but it really makes a difference if we know your price average. And that's all we need to know. We don't need to know your position unless you want to share that. But anyways, that's where we're looking for the stock to do now. Another thing you could do here is pull out the fib retracement and see where we're sitting. So we're currently sitting, our 50% retracement is at the 121 level, and as you can see, it closed after hours right above that. That's good bullish signal. The fact that it tried to retrace below it and then it's currently riding that, we can expect it to break out. It might gap up going into next week's trading session at these I think that's a 32 or 68. Let me pull back. 61. I get that mixed up. Anyways, it might gap up above that, find that support that it was trading in throughout Wednesday, Thursday, or Tuesday, Wednesday trading sessions, and then continue to the upside above the 163. That's what we would hope for. That's what we would look for. Or it could gap down. That's also just as much as a possibility, and find the support like it did right here at the 1010s before it does continue moving forward and higher. But key levels, just to look at it from the weekly. Let me get rid of this fib chart so we can actually see. It's getting above that 163 and then retesting that 263, which was a previous level of resistance that turned into a level of support. And once it broke down below that, you see it really broke down hard. And that's what pretty much brought it down to these 73-cent levels, trading under a dollar type situation. And we can look into some fundamentals, some news on what the trades released. The companies released here recently. Let's see. Mine's up over Denison mines up over 35%, on pace for largest percent increase since January 2009. And you can go in here and see why. I took a flyer call 250 at is that March 19th, 2021 or 2022? It's another thing on options. If you have the liquidity or buying power to buy longer term options, you basically don't have to worry about theta killing your time decay. So like 3 months plus is great. I know that shorter time frames provide better deltas, but let's see, we're currently at the 250s. I'm not sure what you bought this at. A lot of people pretty much have faith for there to be 251,000 open trades on this stock. So it looks like somebody big is looking for this to really bounce. What you want to look at on your options, for those that don't know how to play options, is your open interest is how many people own a position in this, or how many of those positions are opened. Let me put this back. I just messed that up. And then your delta tells you how much you'll make per dollar going up, and then your theta is how much you lose every day. We can look at naked shortly after this, but let's look at the fundamentals on this real quick. Should be already pulled up. Yep. Unfortunately, sometimes TDA doesn't even provide fundamental information for it, so sometimes I have to actually use my trading view to access that info, and it tells it in a different format that I'm still trying to get accustomed to. So we can look at evaluation real quick. I'm still trying to figure out myself how to look over how TradingView actually provides the same information. They have a 1.8 debt to equity ratio, meaning their assets are much less than the debt they have. So these are things that we need to pay attention to. They only currently have 17 million in assets available. Like I'm not really gonna go into the fundamentals because make myself look stupid trying to decipher this live. I need to really look at this basically on my own time. But I can see that they're currently down negative 12 million. I'm not sure. Let's look at it from the standpoint of how the pandemic affected this stock. And as we can see, we saw a short dip, not much, about 10%. This is always, it seems like it's been a penny stock for some time now. And I would look to find out why there. It's been somewhat of a penny stock since 2014, 2015. What encouraged you to get into this, Leon? Was there anything that sparked your attention that brought you to this stock? Was somebody just talking about it, suggested it to you, or what? I would like to know that as well if you all would also add that. But I mean, it's looking pretty strong now that we're above this dollar. Whatever exchange that it's on the NYC. It's still ARCA, so it's still considered, I think, a OTC stock at this point, based off that. But the fact that it's currently above 123, it might meet the, I think it has to stay above there for 7+ days or something like that before the exchange will consider it as a listed stock. I could be wrong. You can correct me in the chat, but yeah, let's see if we gap up or down pre-market going into Monday. Let's see if we can get above that 163 and find strong support. Look for confirmation. At least 3 candles on the 1 hour is my confirmation value. What was the price at when you bought those 319 calls? Tell me that on the contract itself. I'll come back to it as you provide me with that information. All right, next one was AMC. AMC actually sparked up a little bit there to the $6 range. I saw when the Melvin Capital and Robinhood CEO and DFV had the Senate hearings the other day, the financial committee hearing the other day. I actually watched it. I'm not sure if you guys did. I'll add a link below if you want to view. I think it was pretty good. The stock actually bounced up to the 658, but as you can see, based off of this recent bounce, that 659 level was a hard level for it to get above. Honestly, like AMC is not, I'm not a big fan of myself personally. I didn't follow it or trade it when the whole short squeeze movement was going on, for the simple fact that I looked at the fundamentals on it. It's down 128% year over year and down 173% net profit margin. I can't remember if it was negative 60% or I think that's with airlines and travel. I think AMC saw negative 90% attendance in their theaters, causing for it to be at these, still not seeing an increase in that. So long term, there may be a recovery in it, but then you also got to consider the fact that all these streaming services are coming out. Movies are releasing direct to streaming services versus theaters now, although there was a big battle going on where movie theaters are like, this is killing our business, so you at least have to have an agreement where you release them in both. But with the pandemic still here, I mean, it's not going away just because vaccines are out. I can't remember the most recent levels. Yeah, agreed. It's not good long term, and that's what I'm saying here. I think that $10 is very high, man. I really do. I see you have a bought into it at $10.50 and just followed the trend. What do you recommend me doing? Lesson learned the hard way. I think traders become better traders from actually losing and making mistakes. It's whether or not you're able to track those trades and figure out your key performance indicators to basically understand where you made those mistakes. Now, if you're just going based off the trend being social movement, that's not a good trade. to make. If you're going off of the actual fundamental growth of a company, okay. If you're going based on the actual trend analysis, okay. But you still have to factor in what's going on globally, because that affects every type of business. You have to understand the sentiment on the stock to some degree. You have to understand the fundamentals and the trend analysis to determine whether something's good for a long-term hold, especially when you're seeing large spikes in volatility. Back to what I was saying earlier, you end up catching stocks at these $10 price levels. When before all that happened, we were watching AMC. It was at 412, I think, or 481, when it got brought up in our Discord community that I'm a part of and real strong partners with. And they were talking about, we're seeing volume spikes to the buy side, unusual volume activity and stuff like this. And I still was against the trade. I supported anybody that went after it, and I hope somebody made some money on the way up to $25. I think some of our members did, but it was smart to get out at that point and quit this hold and I'm going to the moon type situation. That's just like we had another stock, OTLK, performing great. Somebody came at me sideways because they're like, this is a $40 to $60 stock. Well, in my mind, the stock's only like $3-4. So until it's $40 to $60, I'm not going to sit here and speculate that. We can look at the fundamentals, and that's what it says. If the fundamentals are saying that, why isn't it there right now? And that's how I look at things. Like, I'm just very cautious. I don't follow trends. Quit following trends. Do your DD. We actually built a tool and provided it free called a due diligence database. If you want to access it, I'm really trying to pull everybody together to contribute to this. I'm picking up a guy to actually manage it and go ahead and start adding information that we're doing internally. Sold in the threes, never bought after hype. That's good. That's good. That's how you play it. That's just like we pushed the alert on SNDL when it was at 52 cents. It jumped up to 8.32, but I'm not sure how many people, if you could real quick, how many of you are new to the chat? If you could just say, me in the chat real quick. I want to make sure I'm not repeating myself to, common viewers all over again before I make my statement. Anyways, so AMC, I mean, if I don't know what can save this company. I don't know of anybody that's went to the movies here recently. Especially since the pandemic started. I don't see people going to the movies. This company needs to adapt to the current environment and show me some confidence. That's the only thing that could bring me confidence in this company is if they adapt to the current environment. Streaming service is key, apparently. But, I mean, how is that any different from anybody else? I can tell you one good idea is... First time here, Shad? Okay. I'll get to my point on why I asked a minute ago here in a second. But a good idea is some type of premium monthly subscription or even annual. All right, Steven. I'm glad to have you both here. Thank you for joining us today. This is called Coffee and Stocks. We review the trades that you have or are interested in. Leon, thank you for being here. They can create a premium service where all new movies release directly through that, and it's a monthly membership. Because one thing that I see occurring with current streaming services is the direct from movie production company straight to the streaming service. They need to capitalize on that before anybody else can. What's the best way to receive your trade alerts? We have, I'll get to that before we end this, Julian. So, that's the only thing I can see reviving this company. I'm not going to stick on it too long. It was a hype, pump and dump, worked very well in that aspect. Outside of that, I just don't see a need for movie theaters right now. I've seen 3 movie theaters in my city right now that closed down here recently. One of those being an AMC. Regal. I'm not sure if it's an AMC company or not. I don't think it is, but that is definitely shut down. Isn't that Disney is doing now? Disney is currently doing that for Disney movies, but I did hear talks about them opening up their portfolio to, you know, other movie production companies and TV show production companies, because they recognize the fact that eventually everybody's going to watch every Disney movie that's available on Disney Plus, and people are going to watch it quicker than they can produce the content, in my opinion, because of all the work that comes into making a movie. But that's just like, what is that Paramount Plus is a movie production, TV production show. They have their own Plus now, Paramount Plus. So some of these movie production companies are already skipping the streaming services and creating their own. I don't know what comes from that. It's a smart idea. Yes, it is. It's very smart on their part, and Disney is very good on that. I mean, you got to think about it. Disney has ESPN, which already has ESPN Plus. I mean, Disney is tapping in. I think NBC either is owned by Disney or owns Disney, one or the other. But you know, so they already have TV shows coming out on their stuff. It's a great idea. I actually, from a business standpoint, don't like the fact that we are focused so strongly as a society to keep people embedded in their homes, though. We're taking away the social interaction factor, and that's the face-to-face talk, just like I'm talking to you now is through a video. I don't get to actually sit in front of you and talk to you anymore, and I think that's what is deteriorating our society. Just my ABC. Thank you for the correction. But I think, you know, just from a social standpoint, I think that is harmful more so than anything else. Smart from a business, because that's the trend, but as you can see what happens with trends. Anyways, we'll go to the next stock, though. I'm not going to harp on AMC too much longer, or at all, because of its current situation. What was next? We had AMC. Somebody asked to look at Naked next, I believe, so let's look at it. Naked burned us. We alerted on this stock back when it was at 189, currently sitting at 121. We're currently down on the trade alert, I think 34%. I'm not mad at it. I'm looking at it from a long-term standpoint anyways, and I stated that when we alerted on the stock. But as you can see, based on the trend, we're sticking strong and true to that trend. It needs to stay strong and true to that trend. And that was based on previous levels of resistance now becoming new levels of support on this diagonal trend here. But honestly, I would like to break this down again and completely remove everything that I have here for one simple fact, because it's already not working, even with my horizontal trend lines. So what I'm going to do when I am trying to decipher a chart, I'm trying to find the horizontal trend where the price action is most common throughout the time frames. So, and how that plays a part. And I believe I had it set up here because of back here, and we've seen it retest those levels. I think it was right here is where I initially set it, and I'm going to set it there again. But due to the most recent volatility, Naked has been a stock that's been talked about for some time now. Naked Brands, if you're not aware of the company name. And I sometimes I wish we could just erase this pump and dump scheme that occurred here and just focus on actually how the stock is trading. Before all that, you can see we retested these 166 levels and had issues, and it went right back down to 10 cents a share, which is crazy. I hate to see anybody catch a stock up here so high and virtually lose every penny of the investment in itself, which is crazy. But, you know, I don't know how long somebody would hold it in that scenario. If it keeps you up at night, I hear Dylan from our Discord community that I'm a partner with. He's always saying, if it keeps you up at night, get rid of it. If it's bothering you that much, get rid of it. And that makes sense. What you invest in should provide you with confidence in knowing that you have a future to look forward to with these stocks, if that makes sense. Invest in yourself, ultimately. But back to Naked. We're looking at issues above the 166, although we're finding new support levels to the higher sides. Right, I'm going to identify this one because it correlates so well on this 110. But what I want to point out is, let's go back to that recent time frame where it was above those levels before. This is when it was 17 cent. Let's keep going. We saw it sitting on that 110 before, exactly the same trend. So beware of Naked doing the exact same thing that it did before. If it breaks 110 and then you see it retest those levels and reject, it's probably going back in the same direction it did before. Now, historic price action does not guarantee future price action. And I believe it should have did that right here. But the fact that we found so much support is because so many people are holding on to the stock for the simple fact that they probably got caught up here again. I don't know what your price average is on this either. If you could, no, you said 140. So you're only down 30 cents. That's it's about negative 15%, if I'm correct, just based on our current situation ourselves. But we're finding strong support here, which is a good sign. I can bring in some of my indicators, and this kind of shows me the flow of the stock, and I base it off the 1 hour. I look at it first from the daily. Daily is showing down signals, so be careful there. But the 1 hour kind of gives you a more internal look into the stock. So let's do that. Let's go and look at that. Let's scoot past this a little bit. Trading sideways, in my opinion. We're finding strong support above that 110, which is key. I think it's still hiding my lines. I'm going to pull those out. No. Yeah, there we go. We're trading sideways in this channel. I would like to be interested to go a little bit more in depth in why it popped again. Because I should have suggested getting out around those levels. I missed the pop, personally, because I was focused on other opportunities. And that's another thing I want to share with you guys. Do not focus solely on one opportunity and miss the opportunity to find more opportunities, if that makes any sense. But anyways, we got to get above those 166 and find strong levels, and that'll actually indicate the stock is actually moving to the upside like it should be as far as growing as a stock in general. But then we could look at the fundamentals on the company and determine how likely that is. So hopefully that kind of gives you an idea on how I base my long-term stocks. Year over year showing great EPS growth, 149. But we're showing negative 27% net profit margin. You can kind of go a little bit more in depth with that, and they're not even reporting their quarterlies. I think I should have the ability to look at their earnings report and bring that over here too. Their next earnings is scheduled on the 25th. I know that, but it's taking a long time to load here, so I'm not going to harp on it or wait too much longer. So, you know, if you get back to those 140 levels, I'm not confident in it myself. That's my personal opinion. That's why I need to get out of it at the 180 levels if I can. But if it goes back up to your 140, see if it continues to the 160s and retest those levels. To answer your question, Julian, thank you for asking. And to answer your second question, Julian, in order to access our trade alerts, we have free memberships and premium memberships at Millennial Investments. And free memberships gets at least one free day trade alert, or daily trade alert, not a day trade. They're all swing trades. We focus on 10 to 20% margins of profit, and then over the course of 20 to 30 days, up to 2 to 3 months on the swing trade, depending on how well momentum is on the stock. Our premium membership gives you unlimited access to all of our stocks that we're looking at and trading on. We can go down the list and look at those. I'm not here to promote that. I'm here to look at y'all stocks. So I'm not sure, Julian, if you're on Discord or if you're on Facebook or one of our other channels, but feel free to reach out to me directly because I want to take this time to look at the stocks you guys are interested in or currently have a position in. I'm not here to promote us at Millennial Investments. Does anybody else have any stocks they're interested in they want to look at? I'll give you a second to provide some more in here. I do have one stock I do want to recommend to everybody, but I'm more focused on what you guys are focused on. Anybody else? APG. Okay. And if anyone else, do you have a position in this first and foremost, Justin? If you do, what's your price average? While we're looking at this, feel free to drop some more in the PFE. Okay, we'll look at that. If y'all have any more, feel free to drop them in. We'll look at them. Definitely looks like a strong growth stock here. Currently trading, I can see it just off the top. We're currently trading in a strong channel to the upside, which you would call an ascending triangle, and staying true to that. At least on the upside of this, let's look at it. It looks like I was already looking at this stock before. Oh, no. Those are my auto fib chart, fib lines that jump in here. You do have a position? What's your price average? I'm on Discord and I have signed up to the website, and bingo. You jumped in BNGO based on our, oh, that's one you want to look at. Okay, cool. Sorry. You can if you're currently a member, you can access our trades. We send them via email as we release them and update them. But you can always access your investor dashboard to look over all of the trades that we currently have open and how well they're performing. The system will tell you that as soon as you log into the dashboard itself. 1916. It's not a bad entry at all. I would look at it. Oh man, this is a great trade. This almost looks like the SPY. But and honestly, I mean, if we really wanted to, we could actually compare how that compares to. No. Didn't want a new pan. I mean, it's almost identical to the SPY. That's what this is down here. But I was trying to add it in here. And the reason being I say that is if it correlates with the SPY, follow how the SPY performs moving forward. Now, me personally, I think there's like a large pullback looming on the SPY myself. But as you can see, it's trading. That's what this orange line is. I wish I could take out, or I think I can. Let me see. Let me hide all indicators. Look how well it follows the SPY. So as long as we see the SPY continue moving up, you should see this moving up. I really want to do some DD on this company to understand what this is. But watch out for the SPY pulling back because it seems to follow, as you can see right here, very strongly. And if the SPY pulls back, Justin, that's okay. That means this is going to, and depending upon how far the SPY pulls back, that may allow you to find a better entry into the stock. So it's not a bad thing. Just be aware of that. If you're very strong on this stock and holding on to it long term, look for that. But one thing I would like to point out is that it is finding strong support above your it looks like it's finding strong support above this 917 level, which was previously a level of resistance for you. Trend is sticking strong to the upside. BGI as well. Okay. Sticking strong to the upside, so I assume that it's going to keep going. Some people are saying the SPY is going to go to 400, 430 is some of the price targets for the SPY. So you definitely have some upside still left if that is the case, and as long as the SPY doesn't take a crap on us here. But as you can see, the SPY is slowly trickling up. But I feel like the SPY needs to correlate with. I think Wall Street needs to correlate mainly with how Main Street and its conditions currently are. And it's been a huge problem with me personally, how I feel about that. The fact that the market is going so far up, but yet our true economy behind the scenes is deteriorating. So that's why I'm expecting a pullback looming on the SPY and the entire market altogether, which it, in my opinion, it deserves to do. And I think it's only right that it does. A lot of people are comparing this back to the 2008, and 2009 is the year we saw everything pull back very strongly. So they're assuming after the election, stocks went up shortly for a month, but then went down. There was another trend that Norok brought to our attention at the end of January. Anytime we closed January in a red state, down, which it was, the chances of the market continuing to the upside dropped from, I think it's like either 85 to 89% all the way down to 65%. He has a video on that. I suggest reading it if you're on Discord. If you want to get on our Discord, it's in the link in the description below. It's a free community educational tools. But that's my say on that, and that's how I would play this moving forward. The fact that we were able to identify that for you is pay attention to the SPY. As long as it's continuing pushing to the upside, you'll be fine. But the moment you start hearing about a market correction, you might want to pull out of this temporarily. I'm not saying forever, but just to find potentially maybe an entry around the 15 point, which actually gives you a better position on the trade. All right. Next one was PFE. What I want to do too is I'm going to add some of these stocks to another watch list. I'll call it coffee and stocks, and we'll watch the trades going through the week. I'm going to leave those up there. I'll just add the ones we've already talked about. We talked about SNDL. Of course, it's probably already on the list. AMC. What else did we talk about, guys? DNN. Currently talking about APG. We're about to talk about PFE. PFE, I believe, is isn't that Pfizer? Yeah, Pfizer. Of course, a lot of people were disappointed on Pfizer, and everybody played into this stock because of the COVID vaccines and stuff like that. But as you can see, we've been in a strong downtrend, and I honestly don't have any DD on why, but I can at least identify the trend analysis on it. And the reason I don't have DD is because I'm not paying attention to the stock. I'm not into it. I don't have interest in it for some reason. I just never was. But we're currently trading in a parallel, a sideways channel right now. The stock has broke down below it, but it's always retraced back to it and found that support. Tried to break below a few more times. So it's key to watch how it reacts now. I don't know if this is a great buying opportunity or if you already have a position in it, Shad. If you do, I bought in at 38. Okay. I feel like PFE should be gaining, and it's not. I feel like a million people feel like that. I would assume that it would. I mean, of course, we can go look at a lot of things. Pfizer is not only focused on the COVID-19 candidate that it has out, but if you look at how it's performing quarter over quarter, it's probably the worst one we've seen in today's session alone, at negative 271% EPS growth, negative 255% net profit margins. That's insane. Okay, ONTX. ONTX, I was actually going to alert on that the other day. I didn't for some reason. I think I got caught up. Anyways, that's quarterly performance, but year over year is the same. So as far as being a growth stock long term, it's not performing very well. Still positive on EPS, but it's just showing down signals going into 2020. And then now, I would pay attention. If this is the long term stock for you, pay attention to how it performs now that the economy is kind of reviving itself, or some people say that it would, or that it is. But their revenue stream's in a downtrend. Their net income's in a downtrend. And it's much heavier than its 5-year and 3-year averages. And you need to pay attention to that in your growth stocks. I would consider this being a growth stock because it's such a large pharma company. But, you know, I'm not interested in it. I'm not sure what your position or how many shares of this company you own, but you know, if we're already starting to try to break below that 34.56 level, sitting at 34.44 at yesterday's after hours close. Let me pull the SPY out of here for us so that it'll allow the chart to do what it needs to. Yeah, see, it retested those levels. It's going back down. I would watch out for this, man. I would watch out for this to go to, you know, I would not be in it still. And this is why it's heavy. It's heavily important that we identify these key levels so we know how to play the trade a little bit better. I'm not saying these key levels are concrete all the time, but they give you something to base your trade and your price action off of. And knowing what levels we need to break through, what levels we need to find support on the low end, and things to that nature, so that you know to catch it before something like this happens. And this was released yet. Something was released, I'm assuming, yesterday. So I'd like to look at the news and see what, to kind of give us an idea. Let me scoot this over right here. Let's look at our news. 19th. Let's go into it a little bit more. Has supplied 40 million doses. I mean, it looks. There has to be something in here that is straying people away from this company. No longer needs ultra cold storage. That should be a good thing. I mean, for the most part, it looks like it's providing. This might be a company's move to revive what's causing an issue. I think a lot of the issue with Pfizer too was the fact that cold storage played a factor in how well the actual vaccine was able to be utilized or kept. Standard freeze temperature. I'm not seeing anything. Submit new data. Yeah, see, they're having to submit new data. Said Friday that they submitted new data to the U.S. FDA demonstrating the stability of their COVID vaccine 19 when stored at negative 13 degrees to 5 degrees Fahrenheit. Temperatures are more commonly found in pharmaceutical freezers. Yeah, I want to do my DD on this, and I'll definitely, what you can do is, Shad, is I will leave a comment in the video when I'm done. I will reply with the DD that I can sum up with. Michael, if you can go ahead and start collecting DD on PFE for us to provide Shad with it. And if anybody else wants to assist in collecting DD on the companies that we're talking about here, that'd be great. And I just let me know now, and I'll add you to a list of people if you really want to start contributing to what we're doing here at Millennial Investments a little bit more. That'd be great. Yeah, it's breaking down, man. And just be careful of that. I can already see that $43 levels seem to be a peak for the company. Of course. That's what this is about. Every Saturday, we're going to get together about 10 a.m. Central Time just to review trades from the week and basically look at the outlook on this, the future outlook for the stock and how it's performing to prepare you going into next week and what to look for. But see, and I want to point something else out here real quick. These 3456 levels right here have played a very important role. It has always been a level of resistance here and is breaking, but it switched over to support eventually, but now it's breaking back down as you saw here. So we can see this go back easily to $26, which in this scenario, just to add, not to harp on this too much longer, is the fact that $26 has been a very strong level of support. And if you would have did this horizontal trend analysis on it before, you would have been able to identify it as that, and I would look for an entry at that point. I would probably look at an entry at that point. But like I said, fundamentally, long term, this would be a long term play for me, and I would basically, there is something that's standing out to me though. Let me do this. This is the diagonal trend of it, and as you can see, is breaking trend. Look how hard it's breaking trend, if that makes sense. Okay, so moving forward, look for it to come back to those $26 levels for you, and possibly find a new entry at that point. Let me hide all this and correct my chart. Sorry, I know that looked terrible. But yeah, that's it on PFE. We'll get some DD together for you. Next after PFE was BNGO, which I already think, no, I had it on here, BNGO, but I'll go ahead and add it to my list. We'll trade through the week. Like I said, if you have any trades, I see we have some more viewers in here. If you want to review any more trades, feel free to let me know, and we will add them to the list and go down the list as we continue moving forward. If you have a position in the trade, please be sure to provide your price average so we can base our analysis off of that trade in that form. BNGO, I don't know if we alerted on this or not. And it makes a difference to me if we alerted on it. No, we didn't. I was testing something out. I remember. Okay, I'm not going to get into details. But as you can see, I already had this broke down. And what I had identified last week, we talked about it last week, was we needed to break above the 1370 and find that support, which has started doing that in a few days here. This is over the course of a few days. But as you can see, we're trading at the top of it now. We're still sticking true to our trend. We're not at the bottom side of it, but it's doing what you would call an ascending triangle here on the, what is that, 4 hour that we were just looking at? Yeah. So I'm assuming it's going to retest those 1370s again, of course, or whatever. What is this? 1386. The dang price, current prices anyway. 1385. If we can break above the 1385 and find that true support above there, then I think this is continuing hard to the upside. Now, something to keep in mind is when you're in an ascending triangle, is if you see how it gapped up too right here. I want to point that out, and that became that support. It attempted to, but in this trading session here, and over the course of this pre-market session, it dropped right back below it, and during that entire market, it tried all day to stay above it until it finally just broke down. And that's one thing I don't like about ascending triangles, is that I feel like there's more of an ability to go to the downside if you see these strong rejections at the levels of resistance that form that ascending triangle. So I don't know what your price average is. Who asked about this? Who was that? Julian. I don't know what your price average is. You probably told me already before, but I bought in. No, that's PFE. But pay attention to that moving forward. Is whether we get rejected again at the 1386. 1443 is also a key level, and we can look back further. What I always do is, if I'm looking at the current state of a company now compared to and trying to determine its future outlook, I'm always looking at how it reacted to the current price levels at the levels that it's at. So the fact this stock is blowing up is because it broke up above this $10 price range to the upside there. And that's why we saw this strong $4 breakout. I still think it's going to continue higher just because of the momentum that it's currently in. Momentum being the EMA, which is the exponential moving average. This has always been a strong signal to me and me basing my trades. And as you can see, we are curving down on the 30 as it attempted to break out. We saw some buying volume spikes. I haven't gotten a position, but trying to find an entry. Watch out for a pullback for the 1250. Just based on the current EMA movement, we could come back down here. I'm not saying 1250 is key, but if you look at it from a standpoint of this right here, let's look at it like this. You see, that was once a level of resistance. Pay attention to it at the 1275. If we find support and bounce off of it, that might be an entry. If it comes back down below that, we would then identify, let me get some of these indicators off of it to make it a little clearer chart. I want to identify my strong key levels of resistance, and that being $10, like I said before. You see the stock fell. Being at these levels of the 1370 levels, it fell back to 10. So you could potentially find a re-entry between 10 and 1250. And I want you to, or 1275, excuse me. I don't want you to focus strongly on the 1275, and then push into an entry and then it comes back down. But in this range would be a buy entry to bounce off that 10 to the upside. And then you know what we already have to work through to have a strong upward trade, and where our exit strategies would be defined by where it's been stopped before. But that's how I want you to look at these trades, is using these key levels to see, all right, here's my next stop. Once we get to this stop, how do we react to it? Does it stop or does it keep going? And even if it keeps going, does it pull back? And then where that original stop was, do we find support there and keep going forward? Or are we going to get rejected again and come back down to the 10 where I can get out of the trade and find another entry again to make money out the same movement? So watch 1275s. If it breaks below that, you could actually look for a little bit of support right here at the 1112s. But I'm gonna call that. I'll call that our green zone. I'll turn them green, and we'll watch this moving forward. And I'm really gonna watch this because somebody asked me about ACB the last week, and I was like, man, it's coming back down to like 1112s, and I think that's currently where it's sitting right now. But that's just because it's a poorly managed company. I don't look at bingo as the same way as I'm gonna call it bingo. But yeah, so that's our key levels on that one. Next one, BGI. Oh, and if you have any more questions that I didn't happen to answer, feel free to drop it in the comments below. We looked at BGI last week too. I already have it on the list. BGI, I said this is the level we need to break through and find support. And as you can see, we retested that on, what is that? The 12th would probably be last Friday. So we were looking at it at this point on Saturday. Came into the week, retested those levels, wasn't able to, pulled back, and then finally broke out on Friday. Now we're moving higher to the upside, which is what I expected. But the key level here, do you have a position on BGI, Julian? Because it depends on, and I'm hoping, since we talked about this last week, that you paid attention to this 273, and as soon as you saw it above it, that would be an entry point. And now you would be somewhere near 40 to 50 cents higher, depending on the entry you have. And then we'll be retesting those 366 levels, which I think actually played a key a long time ago for this stock. I can look in here, which is why I identified them. I didn't. I think it was just based off the fact that we broke out here before and it found resistance there. I think what I said before is we need to break above 273, retest the 366, and then we'll start trading in this price range up here. And we would be looking for an exit strategy somewhere in this area between the 5 to 515. If it does, that's even if it does break above 366. It's currently only a what I would call more of a temporary resistance because it hasn't hit that price point and been rejected before. More so focused on this key level right here because it did. So that would be a newly defined area. And then, of course, above that would be the 616, around the $6 to 616 levels. We have some more people in here. If you want any trades, I'm not sharing any trades of my own. I'm looking at your trades. If you would like to look at them, please leave them in the chat below. Also, if you have a position in them already, please provide your price average so we can base our analysis off of your current situation. Other than that, we can still review whatever trade you want to and have an outlook on key levels to identify entry points into the stock going into next week, and then develop an exit strategy from there. But anyways, moving forward, next stock, that's what we will need to look at with BGI, Julian. Like I said, I'm not sure if you have a position or if you were looking at one, and if you were here to discuss this last week with us, we were looking forward to bounce above that 273. I hope you got in there. And you're able to sit pretty deep in the money right now as it retests those 366s. All right, next one, SKT, Socket Mobile. Socket Mobile currently trading at 12.22. Who asked about this? Steven, do you currently have a position in this trade, or are you looking to enter it? Can you answer that for me real quick? Just looking at the stock, I don't even need to do a retracement. I need to pull my indicators back in, and it will do our retracement for us. Oh man, this jump from around the 288 levels all the way to $34, now consolidating around the 12.12. If I was looking at this stock, I would have hoped that we would have found strong strength above the 50% retracement level. You don't have a position. Cool. I would look for one retracement from its current level at 366 if possible. I mean, I think it was at 339. Yeah. Be careful getting into it now. You might see some upside about 15 or what is that? 29 cents up. So you would need a larger position to actually capture some gains. So that's a little bit more risky on BGI that I'm talking about, by the way. So let's see how it reacts. I don't know. I say this expression all the time. I'd rather buy the whole bar than just getting a drink from the trade. Okay. But going back to SCKT, Steven, do you have a position on the trade? If not, if you could, let me know in the chat. Bounce out to the 30.49 on the 16th. Let's look at our news to see why. What caused it to do that? Was it one of these merger deals? Had a lot of halts in there. Anytime you see a stock breakout like that and then see it conducts all these halts, it causes the price to drop. So it looks like the news broke out because of its Durasled launch. Tripled to 10.18 and pre-market after the company announced the Durasled, the first enterprise-grade barcode scanner for the iPhone 12, iPhone 12 Pro, iPhone 12 Pro Max, and Mini. Users of all Apple iPhone 12 series devices can access professional-grade scanning technology. I mean, I understand it's the first of its kind, but I would like to know the use case of having a barcode scanner on an iPhone. I mean, you see companies like Walmart where they have these handheld scanners and it pretty much has the entire inventory layout and things like that. I don't know if that's going to allow people to now use their iPhone and allow retail stores to now create mobile apps where they can manage their inventory for their employees to minimize having to buy that equipment, allowing their employees to use equipment they already have in order to conduct business that way. I'm just trying to think of all the use cases of having a professional grade barcode scanner on an iPhone would be. And if anybody has any ideas, shoot them and we can talk about that. But the fact that this is, we'll move forward. We'll completely bypass the fact that there was this large breakout. I mean, whoever had positions on it before it broke out, great. Well, let's make sure we're not too late for the party. So that green line there is our new support level. Let's see. Maybe an opportunity for small business. True. Yes. Not having to buy. Yeah, that's a good idea, actually. I didn't even think about that. I'm a small business owner. I didn't even think about that. And I deal with inventory. So I could see the upside to that from a small business standpoint, not being able to purchase large amounts of equipment. But then also, who has an iPhone 12 would make another determination. I'm in it. You're in it? What's your price average, Steven? And while you're providing me that information, I'm just looking back now, everybody, to see how and if the stock ever played at these 12, 11 price levels and how it reacted then. And I'm actually not even going to use those levels. I'm going to identify a new one for the simple fact that this was once a level of support, as you can see here. Was level of support, but bounced back above. I'm in at 13.12 or 13.10. Okay. I'm going to base this off of 10.50. And there's a reason why. It's because back in 2005, 2006, we were having strong levels of support that soon became levels of resistance before the stock broke out. Even breaking out to $13, it quickly retraced back below that level. So it's a strong key level of support that plays a factor in where the stock currently is now. And it's currently trading $2.22 above that price range. I'm just scrolling through to make sure that we didn't ever retest those levels before or between then and now. And we haven't. So I think any institutional investors base their trades off of that type of outlook. Is how has the stock performed at these price levels, if you understand what I'm saying. So let's see if we're able to stay above the 12.11, which you can see it's tried to break below but found strong resistance to the upside. But currently the EMA is currently showing us to the downside. Watch out there. Let's see. If we could take a quick break real quick, I will be right back, like shortly. All right, guys, I'm back. I'm sorry. We're good. All right, so see if we find support, stay above those $12 levels. If we don't, let's see how it retests the $10 level. Of course, you would be about $3.10 low. That's, I can do the math real quick to be specific about it, but let's just make sure we find that strong support above the $10. I assume with the news that it released, it's going to make a difference. I'm pretty sure that with it being a professional grade service, I don't think it's just going to be some type of freemium type service, if you want to call it that, or software. Pretty sure people are going to have to buy into a license. If they're licensing, that's great, because you're either going to see a monthly or a annual subscription type basis, which will generate a lot of revenue. Depends on how well they market it and how well people are aware that the tool even exists to, being a small business owner. And also the fact that we're in the middle of this pandemic and the recovery from, not in the middle of the pandemic, but the fact that the pandemic is occurring and we're in the recovery from that pandemic, then, people are strapped for cash. So I don't know how that would necessarily play into everybody's situation, but I know that those are things to consider. Is how well is it marketed to the small business, even enterprise levels. Anything enterprise requires a sales team. Anything small business is pretty easy to hit social media with and stuff like that. So I could see this generating some great revenue for the company, depending on how their subscription-based model is built, or if it's even a subscription-based model, or how they're going to release it. But moving forward, that's what I would look for. If we stay above the 1228, I see this actually trying to retest the 1874 levels moving forward. So you could potentially get a $5 jump off of your current investment. We can look at the fundamentals on the company and kind of identify how well it's performing as a business. It's already standing out. We're up 302% year over year and $333 year over year. And that's before it even announced this news yesterday. So looking pretty strong. Quarterly report, the most recent quarterly report is showing a decline as we went through the 2020 year of 2020. We saw some declines, but that may be due to the pandemic. I would look to see how it performed in 2019, if that makes any sense, to determine how well it was performing before the pandemic caused all these issues. So looking good though. I like I said, it all depends on the I'm trying to see interchangeable accessories, filled replaceable batteries, and a durable design, creating an effective integrated solution. So are currently available for purchase on Socket Mobile's online store and will be available via online resellers. So I would also, Michael, if you would, please look into how the Dura Sled integrates with the iPhone for me. Add that to your list, so we can understand how this actually works, and I can provide Steven here with some more info on that. And then also how they're going to release it. Is it a third-party device you have to buy in order to connect it with your phone or whatever? Things to that matter. As if we were using it with OAV. All right, moving forward. Next, we have PLTR and U. Let me go ahead and add them to the list. We also had ONTX. I'm looking forward to looking at that. If you're still here with us, I hope you are. And I didn't waste too much of your time to get to that point. PLTR, I actually was looking at doing some shorts on this week. Simple fact that this key level stands out to me. But going into this week, we broke this key level at the 3050. And I'm looking back, if you'll give me a second, to see how the stock has since reacted to those price levels. Yeah. So it looks like the 3123 was something that stands out to me. I'm going to adjust this based on that. We'll put it there because it kind of breaks even. Anyways, but the stock broke below that, and I saw that. right here. And I was going to short it because I felt like the momentum was still to the downside. Even though it popped up a little bit, we dropped to 24. We are showing upside momentum though, so this could be retracing back to the upside. But let's make sure that we bounce above that 970 level, because I think that stood out too to me back in here. As you can see, we retested it before, and we were showing signs of a bounce to the upside, but it tried to retest those levels and got rejected. So let's make sure that we're going above the 2062 levels. Who was that provided this? Miss Pandy. Make sure that it's going back to the above those levels. As you can see, we closed yesterday's trading session 5 cents below it. Let's see how it opens up Monday. Let's see if we gap up and find support above it. Either gap up, find support above it, or the 3087, which isn't impossible. Keep an eye on how the overall market's playing too. If we were to add in S&P 500, it's trading sideways. Oh, wait, I did that wrong. Let me correct that. Take that off. New price scale. Is that how I did it last time? Yeah, that's what it was. So even though the market was going up, it still came down. I would look into the DD on it and why. What it released that on back here on the 11th that would cause the stock to come back. I think there was a pullback on like consumer discretionaries anyways. But back to the 11th, how to play volatile options, straddle price option. That's one way to look at it. It's part of this Wall Street bets movement too. It's one of those 20 stocks they keep harping about. Did they just release earnings? Scheduled for the 16th. Revenue growth of negative, or let's see. I'm just looking over their earnings report to see how well they performed. At cash and operating activities, investment activities. So it looks like they did they perform better? I can look at the chart and it'll tell me here. Standardized as reported. Oh, they did worse than expected earnings. Okay, that would explain why it's cut back a little bit. I think that the fact that they're pulling back on their performance this year versus last year is going to play a part. I think they're looking at a negative 2% estimate going into 2021. That's something to keep in mind. There's still growth. It's just slower growth than expected, or previously set in 2020. So, like I said, look for that key resistance at the 2970. See if we bounce above it, gap up, and then how it reacts to the 3887 levels, and see how our momentum is going on. Of course, Steven, great. Glad to look at all this with you all. That's what this is about. This is about what y'all want to look at, because I can harp all week about things that I think are going to move and so on and so forth. Next one is Unity Software, U symbol. Now let me pull out our SPY here. Let me kill this indicator here. Let me go to the 4 hour and start identifying my key levels. Key level was the 119. Had issues passing that here, but as you can see, it retested it, pulled back a little bit because people lost confidence that it would go higher. But once it did that pullback and showed a reversal, that showed the momentum sign to the upside. That led us to reach the, I'm going to do it right there at the 170 levels. So as you can see, we tested 170, gap down strong here. I'm pretty sure that my news would not let me go as far back to see what happened on the 4th, but I'm going to try for the sake of looking. Oh yeah, so it's available. Now it's this 4th quarter. It probably did worse than expected. Revenue, an increase of 39% from the 4th quarter of 2019. Not bad. I'm just trying to get an idea real quick. Just skimming. Loss from operations with 37% of revenue compared to the loss from operations at 80. So their loss of operations was more. That stands out to me. Non-GAAP loss was 20 million or 9% of revenue compared to. Okay, so their non-GAAP loss was less. Basic and diluted net loss per share, 31%. So their earnings per net loss per share was much lower than 2019. I'm not seeing anything that would. They must have had a terrible forecast for 2021 or something, because net cash provided by operating activities was 14 million for fourth quarter of 2020 compared to net cash of 0. Yeah, I mean, all strong financial growth. So they must have had a full year increase of revenues increased 43%. Yeah, that's recent business highlights. I mean, we can go into this really in depth, but I would want to see why their earnings report was so drastic on the stock. Of course, this just released in September 18th of 2020. It's a new IPO stock, in my opinion. I mean, it's well over 6 months old now. Going into March, it'll be 6 months old. But I think it's Ms. Pandia, if you could provide us with an entry if you have one in it. But if you don't have an entry here, I think this is a good long-term growth stock. Now, to keep in mind, stocks that typically trade at these high price levels coming in is because they don't have that many outstanding shares outstanding. They could easily push more shares and offerings to tap into some of this liquidity they've gained. I mean, as you can see, they're already up well over 100% at the 140 levels, although it's retraced a little bit. I wonder if they did something like that to that extent, and that's what brought the stock down. I'm looking for that. They beat estimate sales, blah blah blah. Shares move following Q4. My average is 126 in U. Oh, that's not bad. That's actually a good position. I think you're pretty strong here. I didn't see, while I was skimming through this, I was trying to see if they did any offerings around those dates to cause the stock to continue to move to the downside. That would be one thing that would. They haven't really released too much news since then. Post-fund purchases for those stocks. ARK's invested in it. You know this is going long-term. ARK is a good fund, like a mutual fund, where they have a crypto fund that I'm highly interested in. I think it's ARKF or ARKF. But ARK's getting into this. I think you're going to be good going forward at that 126 level as far as a growth stock. I'm kind of glad we got to look at this because you and I were just talking about looking more into growth stocks. I think this is one you could hold on to. One thing to keep in mind is making sure they continue to meet their earnings expectations. The fact that they IPO'd in October is good. They had earnings last week, and earnings was great. So they're showing good growth. I was trying to identify what this gap down was about on the 4th. And typically what happens is you'll see the price jump up very high leading up until earnings report. And so by time earnings are released, people don't realize that the price, it's already priced in. Everybody's expectations, they're expecting good earnings, so they're buying into that expectation. But as soon as they're released, people are capturing their profits. And that's why you'll see a stock drop a lot of the time when they have great earnings report like this one does, for example, but then pull back so heavily. So, but I think you're pretty safe in the position you have. Key level you want to see it go back to is 142, trading in this range. That'll give you about $20 on your initial investment, which is a little bit short of, I want to say like 8-9% on the trade. And this is going, let's see, November to February. That's 4 months. We're looking in 4 months. You could see about 8 to 9% growth back to the 142. I still have expectations it will continue higher. But great stock here. And I want to point out too, this was a month before leading up to earnings expectations. That dip and that bounce. So that proves my point. And then shortly after earnings, it dropped out. I'm wondering if that's the cause. And it dropped out a little bit harder than people would be happy about. So that's what I would look for in it moving forward. We might have some resistance here at the 142, at least until the next earnings report, which I would assume is around May, comes into play. We might bounce up above there. I would actually, depending on the size of your position, kind of scalp here in order to lock in profits that you gain here, and then re-enter if it does do the same thing and bounce back down, even to the 142 levels. A double play on the same play. Next one, I'm not sure if Mr. Soto is still in here, but we're going to look at ONTX. If you're still here, please let me know. And that way we can discuss this trade a little bit more. As I was telling you all, I was actually looking into the trade before. It was a little bit higher than I would like to, announce a trade. It's worked well on breaking its levels of resistance to the upside, typically on the second time that it hits it. As you can see right here, it tried to around the 94-cent area, retraced, started making its way back, and then finally bounced up. Once again here at the 141, retraced and broke through. So I'm expecting the same thing out of the stock to the upside as well. Of course, that's what this is about. Back to retest those 187 levels. But what I would do in my determination of how much higher can this stock go is a fundamental analysis for one. This is longer term type of trade, and that's why I kind of waited on it. ONTX currently, yeah, that's right. Doing good quarter over quarter as far as reporting growth in the company, and year over year as well. So it caught my attention very well, but I was trying to find our profit margins before I sold it, and I think I got pulled to the side with the live trading session, which is why I didn't push it yet. I'm not yet saying to push it, and I'm not going to. If I do, I will release it through the platform. So keep that in mind. I will never suggest a buy. I would only point out the opportunities I would pay attention to, unless I'm pushing it through our trade alert system. I feel like 483 was a key level that we could see this bounce up to before we start having some issues. And that's basically not issues, but just identifying whether or not we can break above those levels. And then 1095 is the next trading range. And that's why what I saw as far as value in getting into the stock at the 140, 160 levels even. I think I was just looking at this the other day, and I've just been kind of analyzing its price action. As you can see, I could almost move this down here, and it correlates and aligns very well. We're in the middle of this this trading price range right here. I'm expecting to break above those 187s. That's what I'm looking for. I was looking for it, I think, like Wednesday, Thursday, and I watched it going into Thursday, and it got rejected. So I waited for a better entry. I might go ahead and push this come Monday. Company is a great company. I did some of my own DD on it, and I'll do my best to get that information over to you. Why I feel like it's going to be a good trade. Just looking at it from the fundamentals, it's pretty good. One thing I didn't like was the current revenue over the 5-year and 3-year average. It's much lower than those two. It's a $402 million market cap company. That's what it's currently evaluated at. It's clinical stage biopharmaceuticals company. And you got to consider the 3 clinical phases that they have to go through. They're centered on targeting anti-cancer agents designed to work against specific cellular pathways that are important to cancer cells. It has over 3 clinical stage product candidates. Very good. The fact that it has a portfolio. And various preclinical programs that target certain things. I'm not going to get into those details, but watch how, if you're looking for a long-term investment in the stock, watch how they release that news and the results of that. And looking for FDA approval is key here. If we get FDA approval, then yes, we're going much higher. But then you also got to consider manufacturing, accessing liquidity for manufacturing and distribution. At that point, you'll most likely either see them sell more shares to more investors, either in the public or private markets, which can devalue the stock price because they're already a low market cap, being at the 423 million. So if they're adding more shares into the stock market, whether it be private or public, it's gonna drive this price back down. Those are things to just consider, and I want to point that out. So those are risks, good risks to consider, as well as the bad risks being bad news on their reports. So keep an eye on it. It's a good trade as far as momentum, a momentum stock, a swing trade, on the 20 to 30 day, potentially 2 to 3 month hold. Long term, I think it's going to be a good company as well. That's just my personal opinion. I'm not saying to buy it based on that, because that's my opinion. It looks like that was the last one we had. If anybody else has anything else they would like to look over before we start wrapping this up, we have about roughly 11 minutes before we hit our 2-hour limit. Otherwise, I can share some with you guys that I'm highly looking forward to investing in. Anybody got any trades they want to look at while we're all together right now? Let me check my Discord. Great, we have a new community that is willing to allow us to promote this session with their members so that we can actually have a larger conversation. That's the goal here. If you would show your support by simply just sharing this when we start it, so that other potential investors and traders, want to review their trades and speak as a group collectively. That's what this session on Saturday is about. So if you would, please be sure to, if you haven't already, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel to receive notifications specifically about these Saturday coffee and stock sessions. We also do coffee and stock sessions on Mondays at 7 a.m. Central Time to kind of look over these same trades going into the week, and we kind of track those trades. But other than that, it looks like we don't have any more stocks. I'm going to give you guys a few more minutes before I start heading to wrap this up. If you have any questions on anything that I've stated in here, hopefully all this was beneficial for you. At least to have a better idea of what to look for in some of these stocks that you are interested in or currently have a position in. Of course, all of this information is suggestions only, things to keep, pay attention to. I'm not telling you to buy or sell any of this. I'm just telling you to be aware of this and that. All right, that's the difference here. But if nobody else has any more stocks they want to talk about right now, then we can go ahead and come to a close on this. I appreciate everyone that is still here with us now, and everyone that did join us throughout the process of this 2-hour session of our coffee and stocks. Like I said, I plan on doing this every Saturday. This is for you all. Now that the market's closed, I can focus on things like that with you all, and also find potential opportunities myself that I'm not paying attention to. So I appreciate that everyone is participating in it. It's actually inspiring that people are taking time out of their Saturday morning to actually join me and look at this to better prepare ourselves together going into next week. So outside of that, I don't have any other stocks to look at myself. I do, but as far as the list that was provided by you guys, one stock that I want to let everybody aware of, and I'm not really trying to pump this too hard, is GTEC. GTEC just signed a business contract with a Chinese company called SOCMA. I have talked about this on our previous videos. I've been watching it very strongly. This company is currently working on industrial EVs, and I feel like industrial EVs, or commercial EVs for that matter, are going to play a much better part than what you even see at Tesla. Reason being is most people only buy one Tesla. Okay, of course there are a billion consumers, and it's requiring Tesla to lower their price points to access more and more people that can even buy a Tesla. But with industrial vehicles, you can have large companies come in and buy 10 to 20 of these types of vehicles. What email or platform do you want me to send? I will get with you, Michael, on how we're doing our DD and where we need to log it. The website already currently has a DD database built into it. I will walk you through the steps on how to collect all that information and enter it into the system. Basically, you just go into your investor dashboard, you click search for stocks, ETFs. It'll take you to the stock overview page, and then you will see at the bottom below the chart, it will be the fundamentals for the business, the trading discussions, and then research. In that research area, you can easily submit all the DD you collect. Any members can do that, by the way. That's not just admins or moderators. That's something that we all can utilize, and I wish we would all utilize it a little bit more, so that when we have new members like we did with Steven and it looks like Mr. Soto and Shad and who else was new here today? I think who else was it? Leon. Yeah, I'd like to point out. I want to thank you all for being here, but when they come in and ask these types of questions, we can collect that information for them and also share that with anybody else in the future. If somebody asks about a specific stock, we can just say, here's the link. It's a publicly facing web page, so you don't have to necessarily be a member to see that information. You have to be a member to submit that information, and it's free to do that. There's no price point behind doing that. That's what this is about. So I'll definitely let you know, Michael, once we get done with this session on how to access all of that. Yeah, we can look at this last one. I have about 5 to 6 minutes that I was limiting myself on doing this because I want to enjoy the rest of my day with the family. All right. There's one thing I want to point out about VCNX. And I think if you're starting to get an idea of how I go into looking at these trades, you can already see what I'm already seeing. And if you would, Steven, based on, I want to see if you're learning anything, at least from how I look at these trades. What key level stands out to you the most? I'm going to start relying on y'all for the last 5 minutes for a second. What key level of this stock stands out to everyone the most on this 4-hour time frame? I'll give you about 30 seconds to a minute to answer. In at 681, by the way. Okay. Anybody want to let me know, or do I need to just continue moving forward? What key level stands out the most about this stock? I'll go ahead and widen this up a little bit in case you can't see. Stands out even more now. Hopefully you can provide your answers here in a second. I'll go ahead and get started on it so I don't waste too much of your time waiting. But one key level that stands out to me about this stock is the $5 price level. The $5 price level is a key level of support looking at previous price action, even our most recent price action when it since traded above those levels. And as you can see, it gapped up from the 286 and tried to retest this 943, which is yet our next important key level here. Because we're finding strong resistance at these levels multiple times, strong rejections. It's like the stock doesn't want to stay above that. And we can go back even further. This is when it IPO'd actually, which was August 9th of 2018. For one, I'm going to turn this red because that's our key level of resistance long term. Regardless of how the trade acts within this time frame, long term, we know the ultimate goal is seeing the stock grow beyond that point, if it will ever. But currently, being in at 681, did you get into this because of the fact that it was moving, or was this suggested to you by somebody? Did you get into it just because you saw it running right here? Because you're in about right here, and that's pretty high. I mean, it's almost near $1.81, give or take $1.76 above your entry right now. If you can give me some more information on that while we have a few more minutes to look at it. I'm not sure if there's a lag either in this, if y'all can confirm whether or not this is lagging between real time or not. But Yeah, looking at this, we closed above that $5 level of resistance. I'll go ahead and state that. Going into yesterday's pre-market session, we actually, for the most part, traded below the stock. Kind of concerning. That $5 level has been key in finding support above it. As you can see, it gapped up here, broke down below it, and as soon as it retested it and found some movement to the upside, that's when we saw this large breakout to 954. I'm sure there's some news releasing that was potentially released, or it could have just been a simple momentum play. But let's look and see. 2019 or 219 surges after deals with 2 drug makers on using its platform for drug recovery. Natural network lag, understood. So it announced a collaboration partnership with Active Mab discovery platform for finding antibodies with 2 undisclosed drug makers. Okay. The company said the collaboration will focus on using this platform for antibody discovery against complex antigens, including for complex membrane antigens. It did not disclose financial terms. That's always concerning to me. Is why would you announce this type of news without disclosing any financial information or even how the actual partnership's going to work between you two? It doesn't make too much sense to me. It's almost worthless. It's almost like the company's pumping its own on stock, is how I look at it. And that's just from a personal outlook. Like, if you're going to provide me with news like this, then tell me what you're talking about. Don't. Let me see. Maybe I should have looked down here versus. Maybe I'm jumping the gun here. But I know that if I read this, they're not going to give me any financial information. I could look at their forward-looking statement. Those are key to understand what they're planning on doing with it. There's nothing that's really standing out. It was developed by Vaccinex, and it's a proprietary. Excuse me. Let's do some DD on this, Mike. Add it to the list. I want to understand what this partnership is. I want to know what this Active Mab platform is. I want to find out who they're doing this deal with, because that makes ultimate. Anytime you partner with somebody, you need to make sure it's a sound company to partner with too. The fact that they're not disclosing that information doesn't make sense to me, but you would assume if it's a great company, you would want to announce that with this type of news. That's just kind of weird to me. I'm looking in the rest of the news to see if anything stands out, but there's nothing really there. But just on a current trend analysis, I mean, even fundamentally, company's up 4%, near 4% year over year EPS, which is good for you as an investor, but currently down 33% net profit margins year over year, and showing the same on their earnings per share quarter over quarter. Now, they can have a trend where they're low on the beginning of the year, and as they lead up to the end of the year, they have higher expectations in their earnings report, which is very typical that I'm starting to see with most companies. But that's definitely something I would look into, is what are these companies are doing these deals with, and that would actually justify their price action to me. Because I can own Millennial Investments and say, hey, we're doing a major deal with these 2 companies, and people start flooding into it, and then all of a sudden, it's 2 companies that aren't even valued or worth anything. But be careful with that news. That's all I'm trying to say. I'm not saying it's good or a bad thing. Just watch out, because if you can't be transparent with me, I don't want to talk to you. As far as business to business goes. So that's how I am as an individual too. So anyways, let's see how it reacts going in the pre-market. That's what I would suggest here. I'm not sure if you have a position you're in at 681. Hopefully, in your sake, being that high, let's find that gap up going into pre-market. You might see a retracement at the 554 levels as it played key level of resistance, support here, and now a newfound level of resistance. And this is in a smaller time frame. But our overall key levels is getting to this 954 again and staying above the $5 price range. I hope that answers your questions. If you have any more about it, then let me know. I'll go a little bit more in depth. I'm not sure how much more in depth I can go on this one, though. Because what I would really hate to see is that's almost like pump and dump news to me. And the fact that it's been driven up this high and then it retraced. It wasn't like it just jumped up there and stayed there. This was in 30 minutes that it jumped up. And 30 minutes into the market open, we're already headed back down. So things like that scare me. It doesn't scare me. It makes me uncomfortable as an investor. This almost looks like your AMC, or better yet, Sundial, excuse me. But other than that, guys, that's all we have. If I didn't answer any of your questions in this current video and you still have some more questions about any information I shared with you, feel free to look under our live section on the YouTube channel. If you haven't already, please be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you can be notified about future trade reviews, coffee and stock sessions, and daily free trade alerts that we release here every day during the week at Millennial Investments. Feel free to join us next Saturday as well for our coffee and stock sessions at 10 a.m. Central Time. We have pre-market sessions that are expected to last anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour every pre-market session. That's also Central Time at 7 a.m., just to be clear. We also release daily free trade alerts here at Millennial Investments. Feel free to stay tuned for that. And we do trade reviews based on member request and on our trade alerts that we release at Millennial Investments. If you haven't already, you can register a free or premium membership at Millennial Investments by clicking the link in the description below. Also, feel free to connect with us on all of our social media networks, Facebook, Twitter, Stock Twitch, TradingView, and we have a Discord community called Investors Talk. That is a partner Discord community it's full of educational tools for you to learn how to become a better investor and trader yourself to make better trading decisions or investment decisions long term. I really look forward to building this moving forward in our Saturday coffees and stock sessions. So please be sure to share with other investors that you're aware of, any groups that you may be a part of, in order so that we can build a bigger discussion and have more trades. Of course, with our low viewer participation now, it's already stretching out into 2 hours. So it's kind of good that it's centralized on just us right now for the time being while we're going through all this. But other than that, I appreciate you joining us. I really appreciate your participation. Thank you for following us and subscribing to the channel and showing your support. Also, really appreciate that. It's really inspiring to continue to assist people in getting a better idea on how to make better investments and trades, especially for newcomers to the market, to at least give them a basis to start off of. As we move forward, I will be going into a little more in-depth details on, like, we're looking at doing option trade segments to help you improve in an option trade environment if you're even interested in that. We are looking at longer growth stocks moving forward, and just providing more and more as we grow. We're just taking it real slow right now, as I am not previously a month ago I'd never had a YouTube video or channel, so it's new to me. This is new for you, of course, so hopefully we can grow together and make this very worthwhile. Once again, I thank you for being here. I thank you for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me directly in the social links listed below. If you have any more questions that you would like to talk to on the side. Other than that, thank you. I hope you have a great weekend. I hope this better prepared you for the week to come. And I hope you stay safe. For those of you dealing with this snow weather, it's still iced over here in Louisiana, so we're still stuck in the house. But other than that, take care of yourself. Be safe out here in this current environment that we're living in. And thank you all for being a part of the community here at Millennial Investments. Ultimately, if there's anything I can do to help you any further, feel free to let me know. If there's any feedback you would like to provide, feel free to drop it in the comments as well. Other than that, I appreciate you for taking your time out of your day to do this session with us ultimately, like I said before. And otherwise, be smarter. Make sure you're doing your research on your trades, and finding the best entries too to optimize your profits. That's the best message I can share with you. Quit following the most social movements that keep making things rough for everybody else. That's the second important message I can give you. Other than that, thank you for being here. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. I was trying to give everybody some time in case they wanted to say anything else. But we're going into 2 hours and 10 minutes, and that's 8 minutes over my time. But thank you.